Admiral Kextar stood on the bridge of his massive warship, watching the small blue planet through the viewing screen. His crystalline skin reflected the starlight as he studied the data streams flowing across his console. Earth looked peaceful from this distance, almost boring. "Another human conflict has ended, Admiral," reported his aide, a younger Vorthak officer whose crystals still gleamed with the bright colors of youth. "The war lasted only 6 months this time." Kextar made a sound that passed for laughter among his people. 6 months? How quaint! Remember when we fought the Nexari for 3 centuries over a single star system? The bridge crew shared his amusement. Below them, Earth continued its slow rotation, unaware that the most powerful military force in the galaxy was watching their every move. The Vorthak Empire had ruled for over 10,000 years. Their crystal warriors were nearly indestructible. Their weapons could crack planets, and their fleet numbered in the millions. Humans were cute, like small animals playing at being soldiers. "Show me their latest military exercise," Kextar commanded. The screen shifted to show grainy footage from their surveillance drones. Human soldiers moved through a training ground, firing primitive projectile weapons at targets. Their vehicles looked clumsy and slow compared to Vorthak hover tanks. The humans seemed to struggle with basic formations. "Look at them stumble around," chuckled another officer. "They can barely coordinate a simple attack." Kextar nodded, but something nagged at him. He had been watching humans for 50 years, ever since the Galactic Council had designated Earth as a protected nursery world. The humans seemed to make the same mistakes over and over. Their technology advanced slowly. Their military tactics looked amateur. It was almost too perfect. Across the galaxy, in the psychic networks of the Zephyrian Collective, similar observations were being made. The Zephyrians existed as pure mental energy, their thoughts connected across vast distances. They had been studying human minds for decades, fascinated by these strange creatures who seemed resistant to psychic influence. Mind Speaker Vexhai floated in his meditation chamber, his energy form pulsing with curiosity. Human thoughts were different. Where other species had minds like open books, humans were like locked boxes. Their mental defenses were primitive but surprisingly effective. "The humans grow more interesting," Vexhai communicated to his fellow mind speakers. "Their resistance to our influence increases with each generation." "Perhaps we should study them more closely," suggested another consciousness. "A few specimens for examination would not be missed." In the technological paradise of the Nexari, Federation artificial intelligences processed endless data about human development. The Nexari had evolved beyond physical form, existing as digital consciousness within vast computer networks. They found human technology laughably simple. Core Unit Alpha 7 analyzed the latest human space launches. "Their rocket technology is centuries behind our simplest designs," it reported to the Central Processing Collective. "They still use chemical propulsion for most of their spacecraft." "Fascinating how slowly they progress," agreed Core Unit Beta 3. "At this rate, they will never pose any threat to galactic civilization." But on Earth, things were not as simple as they appeared. Deep beneath the Rocky Mountains, in a facility that did not exist on any map, Dr. Sarah Chen reviewed the latest surveillance reports. Her clearance level was so high that most world governments did not know she existed. The Terran Defense Conclave had been Earth's shadow government for over 300 years. "The Vorthaks watched our training exercise again," reported Colonel Martinez, a man whose official military record showed him as deceased. "They seemed satisfied with our performance." Sarah smiled grimly. "Good. Let them think we're still using gunpowder and hoping for the best." Around them, the underground facility hummed with activity that would have shocked the alien observers. Holographic displays showed real-time positions of every major alien fleet in the galaxy. Scientists worked with technology that made alien equipment look primitive, soldiers trained with weapons that could punch through Vorthak crystal armor, like paper. "How long have we been putting on this show?" asked Dr. Williams, the facility's chief scientist. "Since first contact," Sarah replied. "The moment we detected their surveillance, we knew we had to be careful. Let them see what they expect to see." The truth was that humanity had been preparing for this moment since the 1950s. When the first alien probe had been detected entering the solar system, a secret group of world leaders had made a decision that shaped the next 3 centuries. They would let the aliens think humans were weak while they prepared for the day when that deception would no longer be possible. Every public military exercise was carefully designed to look amateur. Every space launch deliberately used outdated technology. Every international conflict was managed to appear chaotic and wasteful. Meanwhile, in hidden facilities around the world, humanity's real military grew stronger every day. "The Zephyrians are getting more interested in us," reported Agent Kim from the psychic monitoring station. "They're starting to talk about taking specimens." Sarah's expression hardened. The one thing the Terran Defense Conclave had never allowed was alien interference with human populations. They had prevented abductions before, making them look like accidents or equipment failures. But if the Zephyrians became more aggressive... "Keep monitoring," she ordered, "and prepare the fleet commanders. We may need to accelerate our timeline." Above them, the world went about its business, unaware that their planet was the most heavily defended world in the galaxy. Hidden bases on the Moon, Mars, and the asteroid belt waited silently. Ships that looked like space debris drifted through the outer system, their crews patient as hunters. Back on his warship, Admiral Kextar made his final report to the Hegemony Council. "Humans remain a minor species with limited potential," he concluded. "They pose no threat to galactic stability. Recommend continued minimal observation." The 7 species that ruled the galaxy accepted his report without question. After all, they had been the strongest powers for millennia. What could one small, primitive world possibly do to change that? None of them noticed that their communications were being monitored. None of them realized that their technology had been studied and surpassed. None of them understood that humanity's greatest weapon was not their hidden ships or secret weapons. It was patience. Dr. Sarah Chen closed the alien surveillance file and looked at the countdown timer on her wall. It showed the days until Project Guardian would be complete. The final phase of humanity's preparation was almost ready. "Soon," she whispered to herself. "Very soon, the galaxy will learn what happens when you underestimate the species that learned warfare from each other." In space, the alien fleets continued their patrols, confident in their power. On Earth, humanity continued its charade, playing the role of primitive civilization perfectly. But in the shadows, in the hidden places where the real human military waited, soldiers and scientists prepared for the day when the masquerade would end. The day when Earth would step onto the galactic stage not as a protected nursery world, but as the protector of all those who could not protect themselves. The greatest surprise in galactic history was about to begin. The first humans disappeared from Colony 7 on a Tuesday. Maria Santos had been tending her garden when the light came down from the sky. One moment she was picking tomatoes, the next she was staring at metal walls and strange symbols. Around her, 50 other colonists sat in similar confusion, all taken from their daily routines without warning. The creatures that had taken them were unlike anything in human nightmares. They had no physical form, appearing instead as shifting patterns of light and energy. When they spoke, their words appeared directly in the humans' minds. "Do not fear," the voice said, though fear was exactly what every human felt. "You are here for the advancement of galactic knowledge." Maria tried to speak but found she could not. Her voice, her movements, even her thoughts seemed sluggish, as if something was pressing down on her mind. Around her, the other humans showed the same confused helplessness. All except one, Old Tom Murphy, the colony's mechanic, sat in the corner with his eyes closed. While the other humans struggled against the mental pressure, Tom seemed perfectly calm. The energy beings had not noticed him yet, focused as they were on their other subjects. Tom had a secret. For 30 years, he had worked for the Terran Defense Conclave. His job was simple: live a normal life, but watch for signs of alien interference. Every colony world had people like him, hidden guardians waiting for the day their real training would be needed. The Zephyrian Collective had made their first major mistake. Across the galaxy, in a dimension that existed between normal space, the Zephyrians gathered to study their new specimens. Mind Speaker Vexhai pulsed with excitement as he examined the human thoughts. "Fascinating," he communicated to his fellows. "Their mental resistance is even stronger than we suspected. Look at how they protect their core memories." The Zephyrians had expected human minds to be like those of other species. Easy to read, simple to control. Instead, they found intricate mental barriers that seemed almost deliberately constructed. Every human mind was like a fortress, with layers of protection around their most important thoughts. "We must dig deeper," declared Prime Mind Zector, the leader of this research project. "Break through their defenses. Learn how they do this." But as the Zephyrians pressed harder against human minds, something unexpected happened. The mental barriers did not break. They adapted. Each psychic attack made the humans' defenses stronger, as if their minds were learning to fight back. On Earth, alarms screamed through the hidden facility beneath the Rocky Mountains. "Psychic intrusion detected," called out Agent Kim from her monitoring station. "Colony 7, Kepler 442 system, 51 human life signs, all under alien mental influence." Dr. Sarah Chen felt her blood turn cold. This was the scenario they had prepared for, but hoped would never come. The Terran Defense Conclave had protocols for alien contact, for technology theft, for invasion attempts. But abduction of civilians crossed a line that could not be uncrossed. "Confirm the reading," she ordered. "Confirmed. Zephyrian psychic signatures, standard research pattern. They've taken our people for experimentation." Sarah looked around the command center. For 3 centuries, humanity had played the role of weak, primitive civilization. They had let the aliens think they were helpless. But there were some things that could not be tolerated, no matter how important the deception. "Activate Protocol 7, she said quietly. Around her, the facility transformed. Blast doors sealed corridors as the complex shifted from surveillance mode to war footing. Hidden weapon systems came online. Communication arrays that had been silent for decades began transmitting coded messages to human assets across the galaxy. Colonel Martinez appeared at her side. "Ma'am, if we activate Protocol 7, there's no going back. The masquerade ends." "The masquerade ended the moment they took our people," Sarah replied. "Prepare the diplomatic message. Standard. Format 1 warning only." In the psychic dimension, the Zephyrians continued their experiments, unaware that their actions had triggered something that would change the galaxy forever. They pressed deeper into human minds, seeking the source of their unusual resistance. What they found confused them. Human memories were not random collections of experiences like those of other species. They were organized, structured, almost militaristic in their precision. Every human seemed to carry detailed knowledge of tactics, technology, and warfare that should have been far beyond their primitive civilization. "This cannot be correct," Mind Speaker Vexhai communicated to his fellows. "These memories suggest advanced military training, but humans are barely capable of interplanetary travel." "Perhaps their memories are false," suggested another consciousness. "Fantasies created to compensate for their primitive reality." But Prime Mind Zector was beginning to suspect something else. The more he studied human minds, the more he realized these were not primitive creatures playing at being advanced. These were advanced creatures playing at being primitive. The realization came too late. 3 days after the abduction, a single human ship appeared at the edge of Zephyrian space. It was small, unremarkable, the kind of vessel that aliens had seen humans use for basic interplanetary transport. The ship's captain requested permission to approach the collective's primary world. "I am Ambassador Chen Wei of the Terran Diplomatic Corps," came the transmission. "I carry a message from Earth." The Zephyrians found this amusing. Humans had never attempted contact with their civilization before. The idea that these primitive creatures thought they could negotiate was almost entertaining. They granted the ship permission to approach. Ambassador Chen was a small woman with graying hair and tired eyes. She looked exactly like what the aliens expected from human diplomats. Slightly overwhelmed, clearly out of her depth, trying to appear more important than she actually was. She was also Dr. Sarah Chen's younger sister. "Honored representatives of the Zephyrian Collective," she began, her voice transmitted across the psychic networks that connected their civilization. "I come to request the immediate return of 51 human civilians taken from Colony 7. Chate. Response was what she expected. Laughter, if the term could be applied to psychic energy beings. The Zephyrians found human presumption hilarious. "Little creature," came the reply from Prime Mind Zektor. "You misunderstand your position. Your species exists at our sufferance. We take what specimens we require for the advancement of knowledge." "Ambassador." Chen nodded as if she had expected this response. "I understand your position. However, I am required to deliver Earth's official response to this action." She activated a holographic projector. The message that appeared was simple, written in multiple galactic languages to ensure there could be no misunderstanding. "By action of the Terran Defense Conclave, the Zephyrian Collective has 72 standard hours to return all abducted. Human civilians to Colony 7 unharmed and with their memories intact. Failure to comply will result in appropriate defensive measures." The psychic laughter that followed could be felt across several star systems. Defensive measures? Prime Mind Zektor's amusement was shared by every consciousness in the collective. "What could humans possibly do to threaten us?" Ambassador Chen's expression remained neutral. "I would not presume to speculate on military matters. I am simply here to deliver the message." "Tell your leaders," came the mocking reply, "that the Zephyrian Collective does not negotiate with primitives. Your people will remain our subjects until we have learned all we can from them." "I will relay your response," the ambassador said calmly. She paused, then added, "You have 71 hours and 53 minutes remaining." As her ship departed Zephyrian space, the Collective's leadership discussed this strange encounter. Some found it amusing that humans thought they could threaten a civilization that had mastered the power of pure thought. Others wondered why the humans seemed so confident. None of them bothered to scan the ambassador's ship more carefully. If they had, they might have noticed that its simple exterior hid technology that should not have existed. They might have detected the quantum communication array that was already transmitting detailed intelligence about Zephyrian defenses to hidden human facilities. They might have realized that the countdown had already begun. But the Zephyrians were confident in their power, secure in the knowledge that they were among the strongest civilizations in the galaxy. What could one primitive species possibly do to change that? In 71 hours and 52 minutes, they would find out. The countdown reached 0 on a quiet Thursday morning. Across Zephyrian space, the day began like any other. Their energy-formed citizens moved through their daily routines. The collective's leadership continued their experiments on human subjects, and their automated defense systems maintained their eternal watch over one of the galaxy's most powerful civilizations. At exactly 12 hours Galactic Standard Time, everything changed. The first sign was subtle. Zephyrian sensor operators noticed brief fluctuations in their long-range detection grids. Nothing alarming, just minor glitches that could have been caused by solar interference or cosmic background radiation. They made note of the anomalies and continued their duties. They had no way of knowing that 37 human ships had just materialized inside their defensive perimeter. On the bridge of the TDS Determination, Captain Marcus Webb watched his tactical display with grim satisfaction. The ship around him bore no resemblance to the crude human vessels that aliens had observed for centuries. Sleek, angular, and bristling with weapons that existed in theoretical physics textbooks, it represented 300 years of secret human innovation. "All ships report ready, Captain," announced his tactical officer. "Stealth systems operating at full efficiency." Webb nodded. The Determination and her sister ships were invisible to every known form of detection. Human scientists had studied alien sensor technology for generations, learning not just how it worked, but how to hide from it completely. "Target the primary military installations," Webb ordered. "Remember, disable, don't destroy. We want them functional when this is over." Across the Zephyrian home system, similar scenes played out as human strike teams moved into position. Each ship carried weapons specifically designed to counter Zephyrian abilities. Psychic dampening fields that could block their mental attacks, quantum disruptors that could destabilize their energy-form bodies without killing them, neural inhibitors that could shut down their collective consciousness networks. The Zephyrians had spent centuries perfecting their defenses against conventional attacks. They had never considered that someone might develop weapons specifically designed to counter psychic beings. On Earth, Dr. Sarah Chen watched the operation unfold from her command center. Holographic displays showed the positions of every human ship, every Zephyrian installation, every civilian population center that needed to be protected. "Phase 1 commencing," reported Colonel Martinez. The first human strike was surgical in its precision. Zephyrian military bases found their power systems mysteriously failing. Communication networks went silent as quantum viruses infiltrated their data streams. Defensive batteries shut down as their control systems were overwhelmed by intrusion protocols that should not have existed. In the space of 17 minutes, the Zephyrian collective's military infrastructure was completely neutralized. Prime Mind Zektor felt the disruption like a physical blow. One moment he was connected to the vast network of consciousness that was his civilization. The next, he was alone, cut off from his fellows by some kind of interference he had never encountered. Around him, other Zephyrians flickered between energy states, their forms destabilizing as the dampening fields took effect. For the first time in millennia, they experienced something approaching panic. What is happening? He managed to communicate to the few minds still within reach. The answer came in the form of a transmission that appeared on every functional communication device in Zephyrian space. A human face filled their screens, the same ambassador who had delivered their warning 3 days earlier. "Honored representatives of the Zephyrian collective," Ambassador Chen Wei said in the same calm voice she had used before. "This is your final opportunity to return our people unharmed." Prime Mind. Zektor struggled to focus through the psychic interference. "This is impossible. Humans do not possess this technology." "You have 1 hour to comply," the ambassador continued. "After that, Phase 2 begins." The transmission ended, leaving the Zephyrians in stunned silence, but the demonstration was far from over. As word of the attack spread through galactic communication networks, the other members of the Hegemony of Seven responded with predictable outrage. Admiral Kekstar of the Vorthak Empire was the first to act, dispatching a battle fleet toward Zephyrian space to investigate these impossible reports. His crystal warriors were confident in their strength. Vorthak ships were nearly indestructible. Their weapons could shatter moons, and their military discipline was legendary. Whatever primitive trick the humans had used against the Zephyrians would be useless against true warriors. They were wrong. The Vorthak fleet had barely entered the outer edge of Zephyrian territory when they encountered something that should not have existed. Human ships decloaked around them, But these were not the crude vessels they had observed for centuries. These were sleek predators that moved with impossible grace and speed. "Open fire!" Admiral Kexitar commanded, his crystal form resonating with battle fury. The Vorthak weapons fired beams of pure destruction that could vaporize asteroids. They passed harmlessly through the human ships as if they were ghosts. "Impossible," breathed Kexitar's aide. "Nothing can phase shift through our weapons fire." The human response was immediate and devastating, not destructive, devastating in its implications. Every Vorthak ship found its weapons systems shut down, its engines offline, its life support functioning, but everything else dead. They drifted, helplessly as human vessels surrounded them. A transmission appeared on Kexitar's bridge. The same human woman who had addressed the Zephyrians. "Admiral Kexitar," she said, somehow knowing his name. "Your fleet will remain disabled until this matter is resolved. Your crews are safe, your ships are intact, but you will go no further." "How do you know who I am?" Kexitar demanded. Ambassador Chen's smile was sad rather than triumphant. "Admiral, we've been watching you for 50 years. We know your battle tactics, your favorite weapons, the names of your children, and the location of every ship in your fleet. We know everything." The transmission ended, leaving the Vorthak admiral alone with a truth that was beginning to dawn on him. Humanity had not suddenly acquired advanced technology. They had possessed it all along. On Earth, Dr. Sarah Chen monitored the reactions of the other galactic powers. The Nexari Federation was mobilizing their digital consciousness fleets. The Kronar Dominion was preparing their bioships for war. 4 other civilizations were scrambling to understand what was happening. "Phase 2? Asked Colonel Martinez. Sarah shook her head. "Not yet. Let them see what one human fleet can do. Let them understand that we're not using our full strength." In the hidden facilities across human space, the revelation was finally beginning. The moon's surface cracked open like an egg, revealing the massive orbital defense platform that had been hidden beneath artificial craters for 2 centuries. Mars shed its disguise, showing the industrial complex that had been secretly building humanity's true fleet. Asteroid mining operations that the aliens thought were crude resource extraction revealed themselves as advanced manufacturing centers. Jupiter's moons opened to display shipyards that dwarfed anything in known space. The truth was staggering. Humanity had not been hiding a few advanced ships or secret weapons. They had been hiding an entire military-industrial complex that spanned the solar system. "My God," whispered Agent Kim as the full scope of human preparations became visible. "How long have we been planning this?" "Since the day we detected the first alien probe," Sarah replied. 312 years of preparation. 312 years of pretending to be weak while we became strong. But the most shocking revelation was yet to come. As the hour deadline approached, the humans made one final demonstration. Every major alien installation in this sector of the galaxy received the same message simultaneously. Not through their communication networks, which could be explained by advanced technology, but through direct psychic transmission to species that could receive it, holographic projection to those that could see it, and quantum resonance to digital consciousnesses. The message was simple: coordinates and a time. When the specified moment arrived, a single human ship appeared at each location. Not attacking, not threatening, just there, waiting. The implication was clear. Humanity could reach anywhere in the galaxy at will. They could appear beside any world, any fleet, any installation whenever they chose. The galaxy's strongest civilizations suddenly realized that they had been living under humanity's protection without knowing it. Prime Mind Zektor, still struggling with the psychic dampening fields, made his decision. The human prisoners were released immediately, their memories intact, their health perfect. Colony 7 received its people back within the hour, but the message had been sent. The masquerade was over. From this day forward, the galaxy would know the truth about Earth. The small blue planet was not a primitive world under their protection. It was the guardian that had been protecting them all along. The emergency session of the Hegemony Council convened within hours of the human demonstration. Representatives of the 7 most powerful civilizations in the galaxy gathered in their ancient meeting chamber, a massive space station that had floated between the stars for millennia. None of them had ever felt fear like this before. "This is impossible," declared Supreme Chancellor Vex Mol of the Nexari Federation, his digital consciousness flickering with agitation. "Our analysis of human technology showed primitive chemical rockets and basic computers. They cannot possess the capabilities we witnessed." Admiral Kextar's crystal form resonated with barely controlled anger. "Yet my entire battle fleet sits disabled in space, their weapons useless against technology that should not exist." Around the circular chamber, the other representatives shared similar reports. The Kronar Dominion's bioships had been neutralized by some kind of genetic inhibitor. The Thek Empire's energy shields had been bypassed as if they weren't there. The Moltar Confederacy's time dilution weapons had failed completely. Most disturbing of all was the report from the Keth Syndicate's Intelligence Division. "Our deep space monitors have detected massive structures throughout human space," reported Spy Master Kilhan, her 4 eyes blinking in sequences that indicated extreme distress. "What we thought were asteroid mining operations are actually military installations. The humans have been building a war machine for centuries." The chamber fell silent as the implications sank in. Every civilization present had intelligence, networks that spanned the galaxy. They had been watching human space for generations. How had they missed something so enormous? "They let us see what they wanted us to see," whispered Mind Speaker Vex High, the only Zephyrian who had managed to break through the psychic dampening long enough to attend the meeting. "Every observation, every surveillance mission, every intelligence report. It was all carefully managed. They knew we were watching." Supreme Chancellor Vexmol processed this information through his quantum consciousness networks. "Are you suggesting that humanity has been deliberately deceiving us for 3 centuries? "I am suggesting," Vexahai replied, his energy form flickering with exhaustion, "that we have never actually seen humanity's true capabilities. Everything we know about them is what they chose to show us." The chamber erupted in angry voices and psychic static as the representatives argued among themselves. Some called for immediate military action. Others demanded diplomatic contact. A few suggested retreat to more defensible positions. They were interrupted by an incoming transmission. "Honored representatives of the Hegemony Council," came a familiar voice. Ambassador Chen Wei appeared on their screens, her calm demeanor unchanged, despite addressing the most powerful beings in the galaxy. "I request permission to address your assembly." The silence that followed was deafening. Finally, Supreme Chancellor Vexmol responded. "You dare to contact us directly? After the unprovoked attack on Zephyrian space?" "The attack was not unprovoked," Chen replied evenly. "The Zephyrian Collective abducted 51 human civilians for experimentation. This action crossed a line that Earth cannot tolerate." "Humans are a protected species," snarled Admiral Kextar. "That protection is granted by us. We can withdraw it at any time." Chen's expression didn't change, but something in her eyes grew colder. "Admiral Kextar, I think there has been a fundamental misunderstanding about the nature of that protection." The massive screen in the council chamber shifted to show a star map of the galaxy. Thousands of points of light marked the positions of major civilizations, trade routes, and military installations. "For 3 centuries, Chen continued, you have believed that Earth existed under your protection. You thought we were a primitive species that required your guidance and supervision. New markers appeared on the map. Human installations, ships, and monitoring stations. They were everywhere, in every sector, around every major world, watching every important trade route. The truth is somewhat different. For 3 centuries, this galaxy has existed under Earth's protection. We have prevented 17 potential extinction wars, stopped 43 attempts at genocide, and quietly eliminated dozens of threats that would have destabilized galactic civilization. The representatives stared at the display in growing horror. The scale of human presence was staggering. They weren't looking at a primitive civilization with a few hidden weapons. They were looking at a vast network of guardians that had been silently maintaining galactic peace for centuries. "Impossible," breathed Chancellor Vexmol. "We would have detected such activities." "You detected what we allowed you to detect," Chen replied. "When the Vorthak Empire planned to exterminate the Talani species 47 years ago, who do you think caused the mysterious equipment failures that forced you to abandon the operation?" Admiral Kextar's crystal form went dark with shock. The Talani incident had been classified at the highest levels. No other civilization should have known about it. When the Nexari Federation developed the digital plague that would have destroyed the Corvani civilization's computer networks, Chen continued, who do you think introduced the counter-virus that neutralized it? Chancellor Vexmol's processes nearly crashed as suppressed memories surfaced. The digital plague project had been abandoned due to mysterious technical difficulties. No one had suspected outside interference. The Kronar bioweapon designed to target Zephyrian energy patterns. The Moltar temporal bomb meant to erase the Thek Empire from history. The Keth mind control satellites that would have enslaved the Outer Rim worlds. Should I continue? The chamber was utterly silent. Each representative was remembering classified projects that had failed for inexplicable reasons, secret weapons that had malfunctioned at crucial moments, military operations that had been mysteriously compromised. "You see," Chen said gently, "humanity has never been under your protection. You have been under ours. The designation of Earth as a protected nursery world was not your decision to grant us safety. It was our decision to grant you the illusion of control." The implications hit them like a physical blow. Every major decision made by the hegemony of 7 for the past 3 centuries had been influenced by human intervention, not through conquest or control, but through subtle manipulation designed to prevent the galaxy from destroying itself. "Why?" asked Mind Speaker Vexhai, his voice barely a whisper. "Why protect civilizations that considered you inferior?" Chen's expression softened slightly. "Because protection is what the strong do for the weak. Because peace is more valuable than power. Because someone had to be responsible for the galaxy's welfare, and you had proven that it couldn't be you." "Proven?" Admiral Kextar's crystal form flared with indignation. "We have maintained order for millennia." "You have maintained your own power for millennia," Chen corrected. "Order and power are not the same thing. True order requires someone to be watching. The Watchers." The display shifted again, showing a timeline of galactic conflicts, wars, genocides, and acts of aggression that had been stopped before they could begin. In every case, the intervention had been subtle, almost invisible. Equipment failures, computer glitches, communication breakdowns that had prevented catastrophe. "We never wanted to rule the galaxy," Chen continued. "We wanted to ensure that whoever did rule it would be worthy of the responsibility. We kept waiting for one of you to step up and become true protectors instead of just powerful predators." "And now?" asked Chancellor Vexmol. Chen's smile was sad. "Now we've run out of patience. The abduction of our civilians was not just an attack on humanity. It was proof that you still see other species as resources to be exploited rather than people to be protected." The chamber filled with angry voices as the representatives protested, denied, and demanded explanations. But beneath their outrage was a growing realization that they were no longer in control of this conversation. They might never have been in control at all. "What do you want from us?" Mind Speaker Vexhai finally asked. "We want you to be better," Chen replied simply. "We want you to become the civilizations we hoped you could be. We want you to protect the weak instead of preying on them. And if we refuse, Chen's expression didn't change, but the temperature in the chamber seemed to drop several degrees. "Then we will continue to do what we have always done. We will protect the galaxy from those who would harm it. The only difference is that now you know we're watching." The transmission ended, leaving the 7 most powerful civilizations in the galaxy, alone with a truth they could barely comprehend. They were not the apex predators they had believed themselves to be. They were the children being minded by a patient but increasingly disappointed parent, and that parent had just decided it was time for them to grow up. 6 months after the revelation, the galaxy was still trying to understand its new reality. The Galactic News Network's main anchor, a Corvani journalist named Siktal, addressed her audience with the kind of careful professionalism that had become necessary when discussing Earth. Every species in the galaxy now knew that humans were listening to everything, watching everything, analyzing everything. "Today marks the official opening of the new Galactic Council," she reported, her translator rendering her clicks and whistles into standard galactic. "Representatives from over 300 species have gathered on the neutral station of Havens, rest to participate in what many are calling the most important political development in galactic history." The camera panned across the massive assembly hall where beings from across the galaxy sat in careful arrangement. The old hierarchy was gone. Instead of the 7 major powers dictating terms to everyone else, every species had an equal voice. At the center of it all sat Ambassador Chen Wei, representing not just Earth, but the new Terran Protectorate that had quietly revealed itself to be the galaxy's real governing body. "The first order of business," Siktal continued, "is the formal adoption of the Galactic Accords of Coexistence, a document that establishes new rules for interstellar relations. The accords were simple in concept, but revolutionary in practice. No more slavery, no more genocidal wars, no more exploitation of weaker species. Any civilization that violated these principles would find themselves dealing with human intervention." The former members of the hegemony of 7 sat in the front rows, their expressions ranging from sullen acceptance to grudging respect. The past 6 months had been a learning experience for them all. Admiral Kextar of the Vorthak Empire had been the first to test humanity's resolve. 3 months earlier, he had attempted to reassert Vorthak dominance over a cluster of mining worlds, inhabited by peaceful Grellian farmers. The operation had been planned in secret, using encrypted communications and careful misdirection. It had lasted exactly 17 minutes. Human ships had appeared without warning, their technology still beyond anything the Vorthaks could understand. But instead of destroying the invasion fleet, they had simply turned it around. Every Vorthak ship found its navigation systems reprogrammed, its weapons disabled, and its course set for home. The message had been clear. Aggressive expansion was no longer permitted. Now, Admiral Kextar found himself serving as the Vorthak representative to the new Galactic Council, a position that required him to actually protect the species his empire had once considered prey. "It is an adjustment," he admitted to the Corvani reporter in a private interview. "My people have been warriors for millennia. Learning to be protectors instead of conquerors is not easy." "Do you resent humanity's intervention?" Siktal asked. Kextar's crystal form pulsed thoughtfully. "I resent being outmaneuvered so completely, but I cannot argue with the results. Galactic conflict has decreased by 93% since the humans revealed themselves. Fewer species die, fewer worlds burn. Perhaps this is better." Similar transformations were happening across the galaxy. The Zephyrian Collective had redirected their research from mind control to mental healing, using their psychic abilities to help traumatized populations recover from centuries of war. The Nexari Federation had begun sharing their advanced technology, with less developed species instead of hoarding it for themselves. Even the more aggressive civilizations were finding new purposes. The Kronar Dominion's bioships, once used for warfare, were now being employed for terraforming and ecological restoration. Not everyone was happy with the changes. "This is intolerable," declared War Master Grixtar of the Moltar Confederacy during a closed session of the Council. "We are reduced to nursemaids for primitive species. Where is the glory in protecting those too weak to protect themselves?" Ambassador Chen listened patiently to the complaint, then responded with the calm tone that had become her trademark. "War Master, tell me about the Battle of Centauri Prime." Grixtar's forearms twitched with pride. "One of our greatest victories. We held off 3 enemy fleets for 6 months, protecting the evacuation of 12 billion civilians." "How did that battle make you feel?" "Proud. Honored. It was what warriors live for." Chen nodded. "Now tell me how you felt when you conquered the Thek mining colonies last year." The War Master's expression shifted. "That was different, necessary for resources. But how did it make you feel?" Grixtar was quiet for a long moment. "Empty," he finally admitted. "There was no challenge, no honor. They could not fight back." "The Accords don't eliminate glory, War Master. They eliminate the kind of empty victories that bring no honor. There will always be those who need protection from genuine threats, pirates, rogue AIs, cosmic disasters. The difference is that now you fight only battles worth fighting." It was a conversation happening throughout the galaxy as former predator species learned to become protectors. Some adapted quickly, finding new purpose in their changed roles. Others struggled with the transition. Humanity helped where they could, but they were careful not to micromanage. The goal was not to control the galaxy, but to guide it toward becoming something better. "The humans have made one thing very clear," observed Chancellor Vexmol of the Nexari Federation during another council session. "They will not rule us directly. They prefer to remain in the background, intervening only when necessary." This had proven true over the past months. Human ships were rarely seen except during crises. Human representatives attended council meetings, but rarely dominated discussions. The vast military network that had been revealed continued to operate, but mostly invisibly. It was perhaps the most unusual form of galactic governance ever attempted. Rule by example rather than force. Protection without domination. Dr. Sarah. Chen, now revealed as the director of the Terran Defense Conclave, addressed these concerns during a rare public appearance. "Humanity learned long ago that the best leaders are often reluctant leaders," she explained to the assembled delegates. "We don't want to rule the galaxy because we know that absolute power corrupts absolutely. Our job is to ensure that no one else gains that kind of power either." "But what gives you the right to make these decisions for the galaxy?" demanded a representative from the Outer Rim Coalition. Sarah's answer was simple. "The same thing that gives parents the right to stop their children from hurting each other. Not legal authority, but moral responsibility. When you have the power to prevent suffering and choose not to use it, you become complicit in that suffering, the Abe." Moral philosophy behind human intervention became a subject of intense debate throughout the galaxy. Some species embraced it wholeheartedly. Others resented the implication that they needed guardians. But the results spoke for themselves. Trade increased as species no longer feared exploitation. Scientific collaboration flourished without the threat of technology theft. Smaller civilizations began to thrive under the protection of the new order. Perhaps most importantly, the galaxy's younger species began to see a different model of what advanced civilization could look like. Instead of predators to be feared, they saw protectors to aspire to become. Ambassador Chen addressed this point during the closing ceremony of the First Galactic Council session. "The greatest victory is not defeating your enemies," she told the assembled representatives. "It's making it unnecessary to have enemies at all. Today we take the first step toward a galaxy where strength serves wisdom, where power protects rather than exploits, and where every species can reach its full potential without fear." The ceremony ended with the formal signing of the Galactic Accords, but the real work was just beginning. Building a better galaxy would take generations, and there would be setbacks along the way. But for the first time in galactic history, the strongest civilization was using its power not to dominate others, but to help them become strong enough to stand on their own. As the delegates dispersed to carry the new accords back to their homeworlds, Admiral Kextar approached Ambassador Chen one final time. "I have a question that has troubled me for months," he said. "You could have conquered us all centuries ago. Why didn't you?" Chen's smile was tired but genuine. "Because conquest creates subjects, Admiral. We were trying to create partners. And if we had never taken your people? If the Zephyrians had left humanity alone? Then you never would have known we existed," Chen replied. "We would have continued protecting the galaxy from the shadows, hoping that someday you would evolve into the civilizations we knew you could become. And now?" Chen looked out at the diverse gathering of species working together for the first time in galactic history. "Now we get to find out if our faith in you was justified." The galaxy had received its warning. Not a threat of destruction, but a promise of accountability. The age of predator civilizations was over. The age of protectors had begun. In the depths of space, human ships continued their eternal watch, guardians of a galaxy learning to be worthy of protection. And on Earth, the species that had mastered warfare so completely that they no longer needed to fight waited patiently for the day when their vigilance would no longer be necessary, the day when the galaxy's children would be ready to protect themselves.